this is like one taking one's fate in one's own hands. You know, Nnamdi Kanu had or have legal representation all the while. A greater number of those doing them pro bono. You can see that of Ejimako. You can see that of the other young man from what's his name. Now, these people have been representing him all the while in court. But if you watch the scenario of what happened last week in open court, even while the judge was still sitting, he opened up and said he wanted to take his fate in his own hands. Let him defend himself. Let him talk how he feels. You see, when you have two different laws for two different sets of people in one country in brackets, you find out that this is the kind of thing you expect to be happening. Because we can recall that in this platform of Africa TV, we have discussed the Attorney General's enter of Nole for the Mieti Allah suspect that was being tried for terrorism and reasonable felony. We have also seen the discharge of the case of Igbo in the Southwest. Now ask yourself, what is so special about Nnamdi Kanu's own? Nnamdi Kanu, when he said the husband and the son of Justice Nyako is being tried for corruption somewhere, and that they gave him a condition that she should jail him so that the son and the husband could be set free. Some people began to dig whether it is true or not, and found out it is true. Now, that's by the way. The judge also recused herself following Nnamdi Kanu's protest last year. I think that was around between November or September or thereabouts. The judge said, okay, since you don't want me to try you, I will not try you. That is what you call recusing yourself. She recused herself. Now, the file was returned to the chief judge of the Federal High Court for reassignment to any other judge, or even to himself. Nothing stops him assigning to himself. After all, they are all judges. The difference is that this one is the eldest. Otherwise, they are primus. He's just a mere primus inter pares among judges. He cannot even overrule a fellow judge because all of them have the same power. But administratively, somebody should be at administrative level. The chief judge of the Federal High Court is at the administrative level. So when the case file was returned to him, the rumor mill says that many judges rejected the file. That's the rumor mill. It wasn't in the judge's own hands. He didn't write it down, because if he had written that, we could have known a judge that would have been assigned a case and say we'll reject it. Now, even if all the judges reject it, why not take it on yourself? Since Nyako has recused herself, now you sent it back to Nyako. That is when Nnamdi began to smell a rat. Because what is so special about Nyako? Is she not just a judge like every other judge? Why must she be the one that the file will be going, you recuse yourself, you bring the file back to the same judge? No. What makes Nyako so special to try Nnamdi Kanu's matter? Now, Nnamdi has no other option rather than to write an open letter. So let Nigerians see how he is faring with his trial. Let Nigerians see it. Now, as a lawyer, at least any lawyer that is above 20 years post-court is no more a young lawyer, because some people call it a young barrister. I'm not a young barrister. Mm-hmm. So I think my take home from this very trial is that it is no more prosecution of a suspect, let me put it that way. It's no more prosecution of a suspect. It is now persecution of a suspect. Because why do I say it is persecution? Persecution is saying that, number one, you have an illegal act which you committed to bring Nnamdi Kanu to Nigeria. That is rendition. It is illegal, both under international law and our own law. But then it happened under Buhari. And Buhari, like all we know, is a man of rendition. He tried to rendition Umar Diko, where he was a military head of state. But the eagle eye of British police, the American police, I think it was American police also, I think British, they caught him and then opened the crate. Lo and behold, it was Umar Diko that was created in a crate, about to be taken back to Nigeria or a diplomatic bag. Because according to Buhari, he was indicted in a military tribunal that was set to try politicians who held sway in Nigeria between 1979 and 1988, when they had their coup. Now, they tried the same thing with Nnamdi Kanu. A plane flew into Kenya, got Nnamdi arrested. Whatever way they used to hypnotize and put him into a plane and bring him to Nigeria, only them knows. Even though Kenyan government says they are not even aware that the plane came to Nigeria, but that is also a falsity, because every plane that takes off from any airport in the world
has a
known.
destination.
Yes, it is known. Just like a ship. Any ship that takes off from any port in the world, there is a monitoring mechanism for ships, just like they are for planes. So telling us that they don't know that the plane came to Kenya and took Nnamdi Kanu is neither here nor there. But let us leave Kenya out of it. Let us look at the people that orchestrated the mass rendition to Nigeria. Now, having been rendition to Nigeria, the question is, what stops you, assuming you have renditioned them illegally? And you can recall also that there are about 1 or 2 court orders or court judgments telling them to release Nnamdi Kanu. And in all these things, the federal government has never faulted. Either way, they will say they will draft a new charge. If court discharges you of a given charge for which you were arraigned in court, and you are still kept by the security agencies 1 minute after that order, it's an illegal detention. You are measured as a national leader by your respect for human rights. If Tinubu is a president, if I am to advise him, but at the very first onset of his administration, if I were to be his legal advisor, what I could advise him is to order the release of all those people being tried on self-determination charges. Because ordinary law, under both international law and national laws of the states, it's not a crime. If somebody says, I want to live where I belong, even Nigerian constitution gives freedom of association. So if you say, I don't want to associate with Nigeria again, is it not part of freedom of association? Remember, the Supreme Court has interpreted dissemination of information, knowledge, and whatever in the constitution to mean that you are free to set up even private universities. Because that's when universities were being set up here and there. Federal government started to clamp down on some of the private universities. They went to court. And the Supreme Court interpreted it to mean that dissemination of information and this for whatever reason also includes setting up university, because this university, you are getting knowledge there and there are information being displayed there. And that also gave rise to the springing up of some of these private electronic and print media. Like we are here now. Ordinary before, it was the MTA that had the monopoly. Yeah. So what I'm saying in effect is that if the president has been advised rightly, I think what he could have done in the first instance, when he was releasing Igbo and the other Mietiala young man, he could have also said, Nnamdi Kanu, go home and sin no more. If you want to carry out your demand for self-determination, follow international best practices. There are guidelines. Go to the United Nations, seek two-thirds majority, or find any of the Security Council henchmen, the ones that once they can veto anything, get just one. Let that one come and speak on your behalf, on the behalf of the country you're asking for, under the United Nations Charter. Then go and organize a referendum in your own area. Let us know how many people want to leave and how many people don't want to leave. So, but you also find out that people are saying that the rumor mills making the rounds is that the stakeholders in the southeastern part of Nigeria, in fact, the eastern region of Nigeria, doesn't also want Nnamdi Kanu released.
Yeah, that's a very disturbing thing to, I mean, it's moving around, but in what way would they be benefiting from his continuous detention?
Yes, let me tell you how they would be benefiting. You see, there are two groups of people that control the masses, the state actors and non-state actors. The state actors are the ones purportedly, in bracket, voted into power. They are the state actors. Non-state actors are like people like Nnamdi Kanu and the NGOs. They are the non-state actors. Now, you will find out that most of the time, if the non-state actors gives a directive, people obey it to the letter, including this sit-at-home that I refused to go in the southeast. Even if the urban areas now don't observe sit-at-home, we go to the villages, they are all sitting at home on Mondays. No school opens. The teachers will tell you it is better I will be alive and my salary deducted than I'll be a dead person and nobody pays me anything. So you find out that who gave that instruction for sit at home every Monday? Not state actors. Now state actors have said, disobey it, come to work. I will deal with you if you don't come to work. Yet they are still being disobeyed. So there is likelihood that if Nnamdi Kanu is released, he will rupture the political setting for some of these state actors.
So could this be the reason why it is convenient for the federal government to keep him in detention?
Oh, see, the federal government, Tinubu as a president, doesn't drink beer with me in the streets of Zikebene. He doesn't chill with us in ShopRite, but he stays in Asorok. Whatever he needs is in Asorok. So he's fed. The information he's given, where he's sitting, is the information he's going to work with. If they tell him, no, if the man comes out, nobody is safe in the southeast, he will believe them because they are the people who get access to him. Me and you doesn't have access to Tinubu. But the state governors of the eastern region, beginning from Enugu to Bayelsa, they have access to the governor, to the president. The ministers, including the former minister of, including the equipment minister of works and the equipment minister of federal capital territory. You know, these are people who doesn't want to hear about Nnamdi Kanu. Even when the minister of works was the governor of Ekpa state, he will always tell you Ekpa is not part of Biafra. So if these people are there, surrounding the president, usually we know that president will always listen to them, thinking that they have the voice of the people, not knowing that they don't.